Imagine this. You're training every day, putting in the work physically. But then, when that pressure hits, the game's on the line, seems like it all crumbles. Your mind feels like that enemy. That confidence wavers, the doubt creeps in, and all of a sudden, all of the work, all the stuff we did doesn't even seem to matter anymore. Think about all the pros now, all right? LeBron James, Kalen Clark, Simone Biles, you name it. They're not just training their bodies, they are training their minds. They're conditioning their focus, the confidence, their resilience, their ability to handle the pressure. They are constantly working on that. However, most athletes are not taught this. And when that mental struggle hits, they're expected to just move on, get the next play. Or maybe they go at it alone, or they just go seek counseling, which is needed, by the way. But it's as if mental strength isn't even a thing. Like it doesn't even matter. Or like it only needs to be talked about when something's wrong. So today, we're going to tackle the 5 biggest mental performance struggles that I've been coming across recently in the population that I've heard firsthand with our up-and-coming athletes. You know, they've told me this to my face. I'm going to break them down into 5 key tips, tricks, and tools on how we can overcome these, how we can get through them, push through them, and level up our game. So let's dive into the intro, The Athlete's Health Deep Dive Podcast. Hey y'all, welcome to the Athlete's Health Deep Dive, the weekly episode where we get a mental performance theme of the week, dive deep into its insights for some tips, tricks to remember, tools to apply it. The goal here is to just bring some more value to the audience, the athletes, the coaches, the parents, anyone giving you a glimpse into some mental performance topics, themes, and some longer conversations around them, and how we can actionably apply them to our practice, to our game, to all the physical work that we're putting in. If you like this, then you can check out more of our coaching, check out our services, check out how us and our newly released Noack gym, not mental gym, we're making our own so we can trademark and everything else, can serve you, can help you out. But in the meantime, stick around for this podcast, our weekly deep dives of 5 tips, tricks, and tools, our exercises for us to use, go apply right away after listening to this. And with that said, each week we have a theme, a topic, and this week's theme is 5 key mental game struggles that athletes are currently dealing with and how we're going to overcome them. So let's dive deep into the Athlete's Health Deep Dive. Number 1, and I kind of see these as buckets here, right? As categories. And we can go deeper and deeper within them, but we'll see how far into them we go. And the first one is confidence and self-worth, because this is kind of thought of like what happens when we tie ourselves solely to that performance, when that's all we're looking at for our self-worth and what we are worth. And it's a big topic, right? Because athletes are often defining themselves by their success in their sport. And here I am labeling them as athletes, right? But they're students, we're people, we're sisters, we're brothers, we're a worker, the list can go on and on and on and on. And when things go well, the confidence is high in that label of the athlete. But when we're struggling, we feel like failures. We feel like there's nothing we can do about it, and we are done. That's why with this trick, I want to make sure that we know that we can detach and dominate. We have to learn to separate who we are as a person, that label as we are a person, and who we are as the athlete of our play, of what we are doing on the field, on the court, anything else. That way we can build a confidence that goes so much deeper than just the sport. And how I want us to do this, some tools to think about this, is a self-worth journal. And I was just talking to a group about this, right? And it's 3 things that define you beyond the sport. Every night, put this on your mirrors, a sticky note, something that easy, a note card, and put it on your bathroom mirror. So every night you see this, 3 things that define you that you do well as an athlete, 3 things that define you that you do well as a person. Get them labeled out there so we can constantly recognize this, so we do know that we are 2 separate entities. Another one is reframe failure. Instead of saying I failed or I messed this up, I learned something today, right? There is a difference when the clock does ring 0, and if we have less points than the other team, we probably lost. But there's a difference from losing the game and then losing the rest of the season, or leveling down and learning and leveling up, knowing, understanding, studying why we lost and using that to our advantage so we can level up after that, right? And I hear this time and time again, especially as I have experience in the collegiate sports, especially also in the women collegiate sports. I feel like almost I hear this more. I hear it talked about more. It's an issue, but we have a hard time with our confidence, and we're struggling with it and our value because we put so much of it on the performance. We can't necessarily separate our practice and our game and our sport from what we're actually doing and just everything else in life. And that is where, if we can every night go to the mirror and say 3 things that we did well today as a person beyond just the athletics, we can set ourselves up for so much more success. Just like these elite athletes who then did start to realize their value wasn't just in their performance on the sport and their full-time college job of the athletic, but it isn't all the other stuff. That if that's 6 hours of the day, 8 hours of the day, there's still 16 other hours of the day. You know what I mean? And that's where they had it all. And so hopefully, for just the topic number 1 is confidence of self-worth, that we can know that we can use this trick of detach and dominating, and using those tools: self-worth journal, reframing failure, and moving on. Number 2 is handling pressures and expectations. And these are put on us, right? From our parents, from our teachers, from our coaches. If we are excelling in the sport, there's usually 2 kind of areas. I feel like there's not too much. There is some gray space, but we're either we excel in the classroom, we excel in our activities, or we don't even care and we get a tutor for everything and we're just passing. There's somewhat of an in-between, but oftentimes, and then that's kind of who we're talking to about this too, of the pressures, of the expectations, right? Because if everyone expects you to be perfect and that's how it feels, how are you expected to perform under all that pressure? That's so much pressure if everyone is expecting us to be perfect, right? We have this fear of failure. We have this fear of judgment from the coaches, of teammates, of parents. We have the pressure to perform, and it becomes mentally exhausting in the field, in space. Therefore, I want us to use this trick of zoom out and lock in. And to do this, we take a step back from the pressure. We refocus on what just actually really matters, right? Zooming out and logging that in for a moment to see what we actually do have going on and what we actually could be looking at. I like these tools of a 3-second reset. All right, we make a mistake. Someone makes fun of us. The pressure feels there. We're comparing ourselves to someone. Take a deep breath, count to 3, and refocus, and then see how we're feeling. We're not making those rash decisions. We're not saying those rash words right away. We're taking that 3-second reset to see what happens. The other thing is, use this exercise of what's in my control. Actually list out, at least do it once, right? What we can and can't control before a big moment. So when that big moment comes, we know what we can ensure we're working on and what we can ensure we aren't working on as much, right? So I was talking to some soccer players, and I want to put this in perspective, that top athletes don't really avoid the pressure. They want to embrace it. They want to attack it head on. They want to take on the best person, the best coach, and see how they can hold up against it, what they can learn. And I was talking to some soccer players about this, where they were actively looking for the best challenge that they could have for that day. They were trying to figure out the best way to handle it, the best way to attack it. And within that, they start to see how they can actually handle the pressure, what expectations are coming, how they can handle it. Because they are zooming out, they're locking that in and seeing what they should actually be focusing on, what will actually mean something to them. Is it that little helicopter coach, parent, person in the audience telling them do this, or that? Or is it that person who they're trying to be and they're modeling after, telling them this, and that? And that's what they're looking at. They're getting told, they're getting walked through what is in their control. They're using that 3-second reset to constantly reset, to refocus, to reframe, and to keep attacking. So if we are seeing pressure, if we're seeing expectations hold us back, think about walking through these, about seeing what actually matters, refocusing on it, use some of these tools, and lock and load forward. Thank you for tuning in to the Athlete's Health podcast. And I just wanted to share what we're all about. The Athlete's Health is an online mental gym helping athletes build confidence and resilience in both sports and life. Now, we've got something for everyone, whether it's the free newsletters, tips and tricks on them, or engaging social media content where we're broadcasting these episodes and sharing these actionable insights for you to take home and use right away. Athletes, coaches, parents, even teams, we're offering everything from these free resources to personalized coaching and monthly memberships in the gym. Plus, with partners who share our vision, we're creating multiple ways to check in and grow with us wherever you are. Now, if you have questions about the athlete's health or just want to chat about mental performance in life and just want to talk it up, reach out anytime. Now, together, we're building TAH Titans, those resilient, hardworking, and ready to conquer their goals people, athletes. Now, let's get back to this episode. Keep striving towards greatness, because that brings us to our next topic here: motivation and mental toughness. Don't even always like using mental toughness, it's just thrown around so much. But I want us to think about how we keep pushing when that motivation runs out, right? Right when we feel like we're losing it, when we get in that slump, when we're questioning that passion that we have, when we're struggling with that burnout. How do we actually get through that? And maybe you relate to that. I mean, I relate to that sometime, right? That's why I want us to use this trick in the motivation and mental toughness category of win today. We're not thinking about the past, we're not thinking about the future, and I'm going to give some tools for how to do this, some more exercises, but we're just thinking about today and winning on today. So not that long-term pressure of what ifs, of the season, of anything else, but we're just breaking it into those small, winnable, actionable moments, things that we can do right now to do it. For instance, this 1% rule is a great idea to do for this, because then it ties back to our losing and leveling down, or losing and leveling up. If 1% each day we're getting 1% better, rephrase that. If each day we're getting 1% better, are we still winning that day? If we can look back, maybe we put this to our questions on the mirror. We got 1% better that day. What is that going to bring us? Well, if the season is, let's say, about 3 months, 90 days, 90% better, if it's 1% better each day, that is insane to think about, right? Or we can use this reverse motivation trick. And this one, I like it. I'm a little questioned about it, but I wanted to use it where we ask, what's my competitor doing right now? And then we want to either do the opposite, if that's motivating, like they're probably sitting on the couch. It's the weekend, right? They're probably chilling. And we feel good enough that we don't need their recovery. We're going to get after it. Or maybe it's thinking, and we're looking at our competitor who is better than us. Like we know, like all their stats are saying they're better. What are they doing right now? And maybe that's even someone older on the team. And we want to do that, right? And so it's not necessarily reverse motivation, but it is just reversing on competitor to us and what we want to do with it. And I've talked to one Paralympic triathlete that I talked to. Amazing stories, right? But they have days all the time when they do not feel like training, right? They're getting up at 4 a.m., having coffee to go do their first workout, refueling, doing the second work. It's triathlon, right? There's at least 3 categories that they have to do, plus resistance weight training to stay strong. They don't feel like training, but they show up anyways. They are constantly using this tool of a 1% rule, 1% getting better, thinking, well, what would like my better self be doing at that level? Maybe they're not even comparing themselves to other competitors, but just to themselves, who they want to be, or the other competitors that they're going to know how to face. Their mental toughness is up there. Their motivation is not always up there, but they know how to stick to it and make it count. Number 4, handling team dynamics and comparison. So this was a big topic that I honestly didn't even think about off the bat of my head because of my own personal biases, right? But this is exactly why I like to read the research and also like to get out and take the athlete's health to the front lines and see where we need to do this, because it's kind of a subject of what are we feeling like when we are feeling overlooked, when we're frustrated with teammates, right? What are we doing with that? How are we handling it? And it's a big topic. This is why I like to get the community and why the athlete's health is an entire team of titans building this up. Anyone involved in it is part of the athlete's health team, and where we're bringing this mental game to the whole another level in the performance. Because out there in the teams and in the dynamics and everything, there's favoritism. There is competition. A lot of times now, sophomores and freshmen are being combined in with the whole high school team. So it really is who's ever playing the best gets the PT time, gets the minutes. But within that, sometimes these athletes aren't feeling like they get the same chances as others. They feel like they cannot play the best. Within this, I want us to use this trick of staying in our lane, right? We don't need to focus on what everyone else is doing, but instead we can constantly focus on our own growth. And this is one of the reasons I love track so much, or cross country so much, because everyone gets to compete. Even if you're not on the stage of going to Drake or going to state, you're competing with your own time. You're going to get to do the race. You might not get the varsity letter, but you get to do the race. Everyone is going to do it, and everyone's cheering you on. It's pretty insane. Now, it's also pretty hard to have favoritism within it, because ultimately you compare the stats, and whoever has the faster time is who gets the spot. I mean, in other games, you might say, oh, their rhythm is here, or it's that there, or they're performing like this, thinks for this matchup it might be better. But in this, it's who has the better times. And that's where staying in your own lane is so perfect, because even if you're not getting that letter or you're not getting it, you're just staying in your lane, focusing on the back thing. But for all the other sports where this is not a thing, we need to have some more tools, right? First thing is a film study mindset shift, right? Instead of watching everyone else's mistakes and, oh, they did that mistake, they did this mistake, watch how they're recovering from the mistake. See who's recovering from the mistake, how they're recovering. If that's the coach's favorite and you think they're making all these mistakes, what are they doing after the mistake happens? Are they throwing a fit? Are they acting like it's not even there? Are you remembering that mistake 5 minutes later and they already forgot about it? Right? It's questions to think about, right? And the main reason of the film study mindset shift is how are they recovering from the mistake? What can we take out of it? Number 2 is gratitude for competition. And what I like about this is we see how our rivals help us. And you like to think of your rival as the other team, but honestly, I kind of think your biggest rivals are the people you're competing for on that spot. Even if it is track or cross country. If you're going for a relay, you're going for a spot, you're competing for one of those varsity letters, right? If that's what you want. If it's in a job or career, you're competing for that higher up salary, that higher up position. It's a constant thing. But if we have gratitude for that competition, if we're listing 3 ways that this rival actually makes us better, maybe we still aren't catching the rival, but we're learning how they're getting us better. We're setting ourselves up for success. You know what I mean? The best athletes use that competition to drive them so much. Instead of letting it crush them, right? That pressure becomes more, the competition becomes more. It's more heads to chop off, more people to kick dust on from passing them. It is motivation to the best athletes. They don't let it get them down. Maybe it does get them down for 5 minutes, and then they put that into rocket fuel and kick off their hustle, motivate, journey, Rocky scene, cut, and put in all the effort. And ultimately, that is just one way to think about handling team dynamics and comparison. Try to stay in your lane. Focus on your own growth. And if we're looking at other people, look at how they're recovering from what they're doing. Look at how other competition is making us better and how we could even get more better from it. And lastly here, number 5, staying mentally strong in those high stakes moments. We talked about this a little bit on here, but it still comes up in conversation, reaffirming that it is one of the biggest talking points. So I do want to talk about this still. And it's just kind of about how you keep your mind locked in when that game is on the line, right? It's pedal to the metal. It's it all or nothing right here. How do you stay locked in, right? Those big moments. Sometimes we freeze. We know people who freeze. We know people where we overthink it. We hesitate. We're not actually trusting our skills. Therefore, I want us to use this trick of train it before you face it. We have to get that confidence in the high pressure situations, and that comes from the mental preparation. I want rep after rep after rep at this using these tools of a pre-game visualization. Mentally rehearse every little smell, every little sound, every little frame by frame piece of the play or the hardest moment. So we were ready to go over it. You're going to get mentally tired maybe, but you're not going to get physically tired unless you're physically going through that movement too. Then we might. And then use that self-talk anchor. Once again, I talk about this sometimes, but I'm putting this in a different way to make sure that ship of the head, the thoughts doesn't start storming off, going in the seas, going in the deep end. Put that anchor of a few words down to lock in that confidence, to bring it back whenever you need. The ship may move away some, pull on that anchor, bring it back, right? It might be, I've got this. It might be, she gone. It might be whatever word works for you. Maybe it's even seas, it's anything that can bring us back into it. Use that to put us in and lock in that confidence. Those clutchest moments where we see those athletes, they've already seen that happening before it happened. All right. They've played that last shot, that last defensive possession in their head over and over and over again to make it work. I promise you that. You look up to an athlete, try and DM him. Just see if they respond. Maybe it's not that. Go to a local college. Ask them about it. I bet you half of them have said, yeah, I've thought about taking that shot. I thought about that possession. I thought about being up at bat or that swing, and see what they say. That flip, that run, when we need the points. You name it. Stay mentally strong in those high stakes moments. Train it before you face it. Pre-game visualization over, and over. Use some anchors to lock it in and have that clutch performance happen. Now, all in all, I like to recap what we covered here. And today it's pretty important because we covered 5 major mental struggles that are currently happening in the area and how we can tackle them. So I want to run through them here super fast. Number one was a confidence and self-worth. We got to detach and dominate. Learn to separate the identity of who we actually are and the performance, the athlete. Separate things. Number 2 was handling pressure and expectations. We got to zoom out and lock it in. Okay, then we can focus on what we can actually control in those high pressure moments. Number 3, motivation and mental toughness. Just win today. All right. We talked about that 1%. Take it one step at a time, push through those mental slumps, and know that those top athletes don't want to do it either. But we keep going, keep pushing. Number 4, handling team dynamics and comparisons. We know if we stay in our lane, we can focus on that self-improvement. Maybe we'll learn from others on how they're recovering. We can learn how others are making us better. So we're not just solely looking at others, but looking on how it actually helps ourselves by staying in that lane. And lastly, staying mentally strong in those high stake moments, right? Train it before you face it. Prepare the mind for those biggest moments before they actually happen. Now, ultimately, you might relate to some of these. I relate to some of these. We all relate to some of these. But these are 5 mental game struggles, and hopefully I can help you a little bit in this, how to overcome them. The Athlete's Health Podcast, deep dive. My name was Gabe Rummel. Forgot to say that at the beginning of this. Hit me up if you got any questions. Text me. Numbers down below. Find the groups, anything else. But I'll catch you next week on the Athlete's Health Deep Dive and see you for our Thursday conversations. Peace.